and welcome into episode 21 of the GC Roundup. I'm Kendall Smith, joined today by Michael Sauls for a very special reason. I actually had an interview earlier today, which is coming out tomorrow for our Give Me 5 show here on Gamecock Central with a class of 2022 signee. So that took up a good chunk of my day preparing for that interview. So Michael is now joining me on the GC Roundup so we can round up and recap everything in the world of Gamecock Athletics very quickly, very efficiently for you all. First of all, Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2022. I hope you all are having a wonderful start to the year. And Michael, you as well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. One of my resolutions was to read more this year, so I've already read one book, so we're doing good.
Yes. What book are you reading?
It was a book about the 1969 NBA Finals from a writer who used to write at the Boston Globe. Great guy, great stories. Big fan.
There you go. Well, maybe you could start like a book club or something for Gamecock Central to join you in. I mean, a sports book. I feel like everybody would love that. But Michael, I'm excited to have you back on the GC Roundup. It's been a few weeks and we have a lot to get to. Now, like I said, it is the new year. It is 2022. And I would say the team that probably has the most expectations outside of football for the 2022 year is the South Carolina women's basketball team. So to start off the show, Michael, what is your 2022 prediction for this women's basketball team? And fingers crossed that this ages well for you.
Definitely a national championship. I said this, I think last time I was on the show, and like I said last time, I've been saying this since I got to school here. This year, it's South Carolina's to lose. I think they're the better team in the nation. You know, they returned every single player from last year's squad, the number one recruiting class, number one transfer. I think the Missouri loss was just a bump in the road. I mean, the team that won the national championship in 2017 wasn't perfect. That just shows that nobody's perfect, honestly, but I think this year it's still theirs to lose.
Well, you mentioned the Missouri loss there. Obviously, South Carolina's first loss of the 2021-2022 season. They rebounded the other day against Mississippi State, so back in the win column. But today, South Carolina, they have a huge matchup on the road in Baton Rouge, taking on LSU, led by Kim Mulkey, who is one of those coaches kind of like Dawn Staley. I mean, I think Dawn is in her own category, but Kim Mulkey certainly up there in terms of really, really talented, well-known women's basketball coaches. This is her first year at LSU. She coached at Baylor prior to being a Tiger. So what are the keys for South Carolina to take down LSU on their home turf? They're the number 13 team in the country, Michael, so it's not going to be an easy test.
Yeah, no, Kim Mulkey has done a great job at, kind of rebuilding LSU faster than I personally expected she would. Coach Mulkey's a phenomenal coach. She's, got her head in the right spot. I think it's a crucial matchup, not only just for, this point in the season, but the rest of the season, and especially the LSU program. If LSU could manage to get a win, that would really set LSU's program off. So obviously South Carolina is going to want to go in there, not having to deal with that, but also just wanting to get a win and kind of prove that the Missouri loss was just a fluke. They kind of did that bouncing back against Mississippi State the next night. But one thing they're going to have to do is limit turnovers. I think turnovers has been a problem for South Carolina this year, which is something that we don't necessarily see in South Carolina teams, considering they're pretty disciplined under Dawn. So they just got to limit that and keep LSU shooters under wraps and get people like Zaya and Destiny going. So I think South Carolina will be all right, but I think it's going to be a great matchup and overall just a great game for women's basketball in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dawn Staley mentioned on Wednesday that a couple of players actually won't be making the trip today to LSU due to COVID-19 procedures, due to health and safety precautions that they are taking. We don't know which players won't be making the trip. She didn't specify that, but South Carolina women's basketball actually did post a video of the team leaving to go to LSU. So if you do some top secret like spy type of thing, you can see who might be definitely making the trip. I'm sure everybody going isn't in that video, but I did see Zaya Cooks and Nia Rivers, who was out for a couple of games. So that is promising for the South Carolina women's basketball team. Again, big game tonight, 8 o'clock against LSU, the number 13 ranked team in the country. By the way, even with South Carolina's first loss of the year, they are still the number 1 team in the country, which I think is well deserved. They have proven that they can beat countless top 10, top 15 opponents. But Michael, let's switch gears. Let's talk about men's basketball. A crucial loss to an injury for the South Carolina men's basketball team. Keyshawn Bryant went down the other day. Tell us what you know about that injury and how you think this might affect the men's team going forward.
Yeah, I think honestly I know just as much as everybody else does, because I don't think we've all really been updated since the game. But I mean, it's an AC sprain. I think it was in his left shoulder. There's not really a timetable set for that. It's kind of an injury that can vary person to person. I know Frank said that in the post game, where he had one player who he played the rest of the season with, and he had another he was out for a long time. So obviously, that one we'll figure it out, and then we'll let everybody know. But right now, there's not necessarily a timetable and not necessarily a specific label of the severity of the injury. But I mean, it's gonna suck for South Carolina. Keyshawn's been kind of a staple in that locker room the last 4 years. I know after the game, James Reese was like, yeah, of course it sucks, that Keyshawn's hurt, but at the same time, it's next man up. And I think that's kind of been the story the past couple of games for South Carolina basketball, especially, when they had to deal with COVID against Clemson. It was just, all right, next man up, let's go. But I mean, he hasn't been able to get off to a really, a big start this season. So kind of, he had that 5-game suspension at the beginning of the year, and now he's got an injury. So it kind of sucks just to see him going through that. But at the same time, hopefully, this doesn't really limit him, so South Carolina can get him back.
Yeah, it has really been that next man up mentality for the South Carolina men's team. It was the same way last season as well. I feel like I haven't seen a team at South Carolina that's endured so much hardship. I mean, the men's basketball team is constantly going through something, it seems like, and they play this Saturday at noon in Nashville, Tennessee against Vanderbilt. They're hoping to get back in the win column after a loss to Auburn just a couple of days ago. So we'll see how all of that shakes out. But Frank Martin, certainly no stranger to hardship and no stranger to having to bring up guys. I mean, he told us a story last year. He went over to Strom Fitness Center here on campus and just pulled a player and was like, hey, we need you to come play, because they didn't have enough players due to COVID-19. So should be interesting, always very interesting to keep up with the men's basketball team at South Carolina. But switching gears to football, Michael, I mean, even though it's the offseason now, there's always so much to talk about. And with that comes the transfer portal. I know South Carolina has a couple of major names in that portal. They are hoping to land. Tell us some of those names and some of the positions that South Carolina really needs to pick up in.
Yeah, so Wes and Chris have done a phenomenal job of really keeping their ear down to the street of what's going on with, Beamer in the transfer portal, just some of the names that they've brought up, whether it be the wide receiver Isaiah Nair from Wyoming. I think he's going to be a good one, especially now that Jacob Coing, the wide receiver from UTEP, committed to Arizona. I personally, not saying I had an inside scoop on that, but I was shocked that he went to Arizona. But, that's whatever. There's the safety, Kahari Gee from Notre Dame. I'm a big Notre Dame guy. I would love to see Kahari Gee come to Columbia. And then they have, I think, another wide receiver that we should look out for is Mario Williams, who played at Oklahoma with Spencer Rattler. Obviously, Spencer Rattler has kind of done his little bit of recruiting on Twitter, and I'm sure there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes that we can't see. But I think that would be a name that we could possibly look out for. Safety Devontae Reed from Central Michigan would be another one, especially now that R.J. Roderick's coming back. In a defensive back room and kind of secondary room that's relatively young, I think adding any kind of experience there is going to help. And then we also have Wes added defensive end Terrell Dawkins from NC State would be another good one. And then linebacker West Weeks from Virginia. I think Wes said that they're also recruiting his younger brother, who's a 2023 prospect. So kind of like a package deal. So we'll just kind of see how that works out. But I think those are some top players that you want to see. They definitely need to get a wide receiver, no matter who the wide receiver is. That's going to be a position of need from the portal. And also, I would say they need to bring in an offensive lineman of some kind, whether it be a left tackle or just kind of a guard in general. But yeah, definitely wide receivers or linemen are going to be positions I would stress if I was on the coaching staff.
Michael, I need to check in with you. You said you're a Notre Dame fan, and we all know this. How does it feel? Once again, another year, another disappointment for Notre Dame fans.
Yeah, that's right. Another year, another disappointment. No, it's I'm used to it by now. My family was eating New Year, like we had like a nice lunch on like New Year's afternoon of New Year's Day. We had it pulled up on my mom's laptop, like to the side. That way we had the tables spread out all nice, but like we were trying to not completely focus on football. Notre Dame was up big, and I was like, they got it. I don't have to worry about it. Get back to my apartment, and I sit down and just slowly watch it unravel. And I was like, there we go. That sounds about right.
I was
No, but I'm completely used to it at this point. I'd like to say I'm a self-aware Notre Dame fan in the sense that, yes, I'm fully aware that they implode in big games and on the big stage. So you won't find me running around talking about how great Notre Dame is because I'm fully aware of how terrible we are when it comes to games like this. But no, I've been a Notre Dame fan all my life. I've had lots of family that's gone there. I have pictures of me at my cousin's graduation when I was 4, getting chased by a squirrel in front of Touchdown Jesus. I swear, like, this is not a joke. No, but I've been a big Notre Dame fan all my life, so it definitely hurt to watch them lose the Fiesta Bowl, but at the same time, disappointed but not surprised.
Yeah, I think that I can confirm Michael is not a bandwagon fan. My parents went to Indiana University, so it's not hard for me to watch Notre Dame lose. No, I'm kidding. I did feel for you, Michael, and I really thought they had that game in the bag as well. I was like, well, this game is a wash. Like, it's over. It's done. Notre Dame's got it. But I guess with Notre Dame in a New Year's Six Bowl, you can never really say it's over until it's over. Now, speaking of bowl games, last question on the show. I want to talk about Dakarian Joyner. Actually, on Wednesday, it was announced that he is now the Duke's Mayo Bowl ambassador, and he got that honor because of the interview he had post-game where he was super emotional, and it was just really, really sweet. So now he's the Duke's Mayo Bowl ambassador. I want to talk about him in that game because that was a week ago today. Just what did he show you? And then I also want to talk about Shane Beamer and just your thoughts on his first full season as a head coach at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, Joyner is obviously a phenomenal athlete in general. I remember, I think after the first or second drive of that game, my younger brother texted me and he was like, "Who is this guy?" I was like, "Was he your third string quarterback?" And I was like, he was a wide receiver. He was a quarterback. We didn't really know how to describe it. But I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching Dakarian Joyner work as a part of the offense from the quarterback position. Because I mean, the past 3 years, anybody in the stands, Dakarian Joyner came in at quarterback, knew it was going to become some kind of like read option on 3rd and long. Everybody in the stands knew it was going to be, he was going to keep it run. It never worked. I don't know if it was just schematically there was no way to ever make it work, or they just couldn't figure out a way to like utilize him at the quarterback position. So from like a strictly like fan of the player standpoint, I enjoyed watching him thrive in the South Carolina offense. Obviously, he played a huge role in the win. So I mean, it was great watching that because like I said, I was shocked when he ran out there at quarterback. I personally had no idea that he was going to end up starting. I figured, when I saw Zeb line up at wide receiver, I'd miss like the first 5 seconds of them running out. And I was like, oh, they probably just motioned him in. And then I asked Colin, and Colin was like, oh no, like he started at quarterback. So I mean, like I said, I was shocked, but I also thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I think if it's just something that they can do for like the rest of his time here, I don't see why not, or maybe utilize Spencer in the same way once Spencer Rattler gets here. But watching Dakarian Joyner work that way was phenomenal. And then on the topic of Shane Beamer's first year, another way in which I was thoroughly surprised. I know when I was just talking at the beginning of the season, I think the Vegas projection was about 5.5 wins. And I was like, yeah, that checks out. And I figured it was going to come down to that stretch of 50-50 games with Missouri, and it was Florida, Missouri, Auburn, and then kind of see what happens with Clemson. And then obviously, they did it. They made it to a bowl game. I think what Beamer has done from a cultural standpoint is so obvious. And I know I think it was Jordan Rogers with SEC Nation, talked about how, it's kind of a cliche thing where, culture change. But Shane Beamer's really doing that in Columbia. And so I think it's evident. And it's just a matter of time before it fully, translate into more and more wins, which, obviously we saw an increase in wins from last season to this season. But I think the program could really only go up from here. It's just a matter of what happens next year.
So I think in our first 2 years of college, Michael, South Carolina had 6 wins in total between 2
Yeah.
years and 7 wins in 1 year. So just in the Shane Beamer era in 1 year, already more wins than you and I experienced during our first 2 years of college, which I think says a lot about Shane Beamer and where he is taking this program. And like I said, I just talked to a 2022 signee, Ryan Brubaker. The interview is coming out tomorrow, so be sure to tune in because he just has absolutely glowing reviews about Shane Beamer, about this program. And we also talk a lot more in depth about him as well and who he is as a person. I know he's a great Twitter follow, so if you want to know more about him, tune into that episode of Give Me Five coming out on Friday. But Michael, that's going to do it for this week's edition of The Roundup. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you all at home enjoyed as well. Happy 2022, everybody. We will be back with The Roundup this year in full force. I can't wait to see you all soon. And Michael, thanks for joining me. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having me.